All right, guys, good morning. It's Monday, beginning of a new week. Make sure you have pencil, notebook, calculator, graph, and paper if you have it. Let me write down Nicolasa because he just joined us. So for this one, it says, find the slope and the equation for this line. So if we remember from last time I saw you guys, we've talked for several weeks about kind of slope and the relationship with equations, lines, tables, points, all of that. So for us to find the slope of this line, already I can tell we're gonna have a positive slope because it's going up from left to right. So it's gonna be a positive slope. I can go ahead and calculate my rise over my run. So I'm gonna just go ahead, remember I'm gonna pick 2 points so that the line intersects. So here and here look fine. You can pick any 2 points that the line intersects the X and Y axis. Remember, it has to meet at the corner of the boxes. So picking one like right in the middle here would not be a good idea because it's not at the corner of a box. So you could pick any point really, but we're gonna go ahead and just do this one. So for this one, we're just rising one and running one. Same thing here, rise, run, rise, run, rise, run. So our rise is 1 and our run is 1. So 1 divided by 1 is just 1. So our slope is going to be 1. So to talk about an equation for that one, I'm going to go ahead and erase this just so we can kind of see a little bit better. So remember, we can write an equation for a line like y equals mx plus b. So in this equation, y is obviously our y point, x is our x point, and then for m is going to be our slope. So that's where we input our slope. And then b is where the y-intercept is. So b represents the y-intercept, and that means where y intersects the line. So it's kind of hard to see, but our X line is here and our Y axis is here. So I kind of wanted to make that as a little bit bolder for you guys. So if we're going to write an equation for this, we're going to write Y equals M is our slope, and we know our slope is 1. So Y equals 1x plus B. So plus B. B is going to be our y-intercept. So where does the line intersect the y-axis? Write it in the chat. So where does this line intersect the y-axis? Remember, this one right here is the y-axis. So at what point does it intersect? And if you don't remember, that's okay. I'm just seeing if anybody remembered. We kind of talked about this a little bit last week. All right, so it's looking like we kind of forgot, which is okay. So for this one, that's okay. So for this one, the line intersects at +2. And we know that because if it intersected here, that would be a +1. Here is +2, here's +3, 4, same thing, -1, -2, that kind of thing. So wherever that line intersects the y axis, that's where we're gonna put, that's what's for B. So the equation for this one is y equals 1x, and that 1 is our slope. So y equals 1x plus B, and that is because, and plus B is +2. So the equation for this one is y equals 1x plus 2. And that 2 is because that intersects the y-axis 2 up. So we go up 2, and that's a +2. If it intersected down here at -2, we would write -2. Are there any questions about our do now? We're gonna review and practice. So if you're a little bit confused, ask me questions, but if not, we'll go ahead and move on. All right, so last week we talked about slopes, points, graphs, equations, tables, all of that jazz. They're all connected, so not specifically these points, but points can be plotted on a graph. Points can also be represented in a table. We can also represent graphs and lines as equations, and we can use points to figure out equations. So everything is kind of related. So make sure that you're kind of making these connections that you can use one skill to kind of solve something else. And we're learning a lot of different skills here. So just make sure that one takeaway is that these are all connected. Tables, equations, points, graphs, everything's all connected. So we're going to kind of do a little bit of review of what we did last week. I kind of wanted to review, we talked about different slope types. So I don't know if you want to write this, if you don't have it in your notes, write down slope types. This is important because this can help you kind of remember what, if you're trying to check yourself, if you got the right slope or not, you can kind of use this to help. So a positive slope is going to go up, like trending upward from left to right. A negative slope is going to be trending downward from left to right. A zero slope is going to be where you have the same, if you're noticing the same y value. So it's just going to be a flat line. That's going to be a zero slope. And then an undefined slope is where you have the same, if you're noticing the same x value for your points. So if you were to enter, so they found the slope, so they took the change in y over the change in x, and they got 3 divided by 0. If you take anything divided by 0 in your calculator, you're going to get an error message, or it's going to say divide by 0 error or ERR or something like that. So whenever you get a straight line like this, or something divided by 0, that's going to be undefined. So a straight line going up and down is going to be undefined. But a flat line horizontally is going to be a zero slope. And that makes sense because it's not going up or down. It's just a zero slope. All right, so there's a quick review of our slope types. I just wanted to review that with everybody. All right, so this is a quick review of what we did last Monday. I just want to kind of review with everybody. So we talked about rise over run, the change. So that triangle there, that triangle that we, that just means change. You'll see that in high school. So the triangle Y just means change in Y. So the change in Y divided by the change in X, that's how we find our slope. So if we talk about rise over run, so the change in Y, they found 2 points for us. So they found 2 points where the line intersects at a corner. So that the line intersects at X and Y at a corner. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3. So positive 3. And then we're going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4. So the change in X is going to be 4. And to figure out our slope, remember we just do change in Y divided by change in X. So our slope is going to be 3/4 for something like that. So this is just a basic review of how we find slope. So remember, change in Y divided by change in X. So if that's all it's asking you to find, you're going to do this. You're going to do change in Y divided by change in X. All right. I know there's no directions, but I want you guys to find the slope. So we can do this a few different ways. If you guys remember our rate of change, our slope formula, we've got y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So we can use that formula to find our slope. Another thing we can do is we could graph these 2 points. We could plot them and connect them and then kind of follow our graph that way. So whenever you're given 2 points, you can check your answer. If you want to use this formula that I gave you guys, that's how you're going to get it right every time. But in case you want to check your work, you can always plot the points and double check. So I'm going to go ahead and use the y2 minus y1 formula first and then plot. So I'm going to compare the two. And remember, everything's connected, so they should look the same. So if you guys remember, I'm going to do y2 minus y1. So for that, I'm going to do y2, which is 1, minus y1, which is -5. So I'm going to subtract a -5. Divided by x2 minus x1. So that's where I'm getting these numbers. So we're going to take x2, which is -4, minus x1, which is -1. All right, I got a thick pen for that one. All right, so what is my slope for this one? And you guys can go ahead and enter it in the chat. I kind of did all the work for you. You just have to enter that in your calculator. Remember, when we subtract a negative, so when we're doing minus -5, that's really the same thing as adding. So that's really just 1 plus 5. So think about that. You can enter it in your calculator to check if you'd like, but go ahead and type in the chat what the slope is for this. I just want to make sure we're all good at, we're all comfortable entering this stuff in our calculators. So Maya got an answer in. Anybody else have an answer as well? All right, guys, so in your calculators, if you type in, let me get mine. If you type in 1 minus a -5, you're gonna get a +6, okay? So you're gonna type in 1 minus a -5. Remember, this is the same thing as adding when you're subtracting a negative. So 1 minus a -5 is gonna give you +6. And then -4 minus a -1. Remember, when we're subtracting a negative, that's the same thing as adding. So -4 minus a -1 is the same thing as adding 1. So that's going to be -6, or I'm sorry, +6 divided by -3. So 6 divided by -3. You guys are awesome. Which is going to give us a slope of -2. So our slope is -2. So good job, Maya and Kishay. All right, so for this one, we're gonna go ahead and plot these points now. So if you have graphing paper, definitely practice doing this. It's not gonna hurt you, it's just gonna help you practice. So -4, +1, I'm gonna go over, so -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1. So -4, +1 is gonna be right here. And then -1, -5, so -1, -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to be right here. So if I connect these, I'll use a skinnier pen. So if I connect these, two things I'm noticing. I have a negative slope. It's going down. So that's a good sign for my my slope that I got, since I already got, so since with the equation or the formula that we plugged into, we got a negative slope, so that's a good sign. And then also, let's see, let me move that arrow. If we take, let's see, I'll try and use I'll use a highlighter, that'll probably be best. So rise over run, or change in Y. So I'm gonna go down 1, 2 over 1. Oh, that didn't do it. So down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. So that is a -2 over 1 slope. So you can always check your work by doing this. So remember, points, equations, slope, graphs, they all are in common. You can use, so if you're given 2 points, and you want to use the formula, that's totally fine. If you want to check your work, like you're taking a quiz and you want to check your work, you can also plot them on the graph and use it that way. I hope that makes sense and helps you guys kind of check your work. Are there any questions about this? I know this is kind of review. We're going to kind of get into some more challenging stuff this week. So I did want to make sure we were all good on how to find slope, that kind of thing. So we're going to do another example. I'm going to let you guys do this on your own. So go ahead and take a few minutes to work on this. So go ahead, and all I want you to do is find the slope. So find the slope for this one. All right, so once you've found the slope, go ahead and enter it in the chat. And I know you guys might be finding it at different paces, so I'll give you guys another minute to enter it. So once you found the slope, go ahead and enter your answer in. And again, if you're wrong, it's okay. If you're right, you're okay. No judgment here on my end. Nobody else should be judging anybody for a wrong or right answer. All right, I'm seeing a few different. I'm just saying one. Maya's got an answer in, so I'm waiting for a few more people to type in some answers. So I'll give you a few more seconds. All right, so I'm seeing a few different answers. So I'm seeing Maya, Kishay, Nicolasa, good. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and enter. So I'm hoping that labeling with the colors is kind of helping you. So remember, y2 doesn't mean that y equals 2. That means that's a point. So this is gonna be 0.2. I labeled that. So that's gonna be what comes first. And that, so for this one, we're gonna take y2, which is -3, minus y1, which is -1. So minus a -1 divided by x2, which is -4, minus x1, which is -2. All right, remember guys, minus and negative is the same thing as addition. So -3 plus 1 is going to give us a -2. -4 minus a -2, that's the same thing as adding when you're subtracting a negative. So -4 plus 2 gives us -2. -2 divided by -2 gives us a +1. So our slope is 1. So everybody who said 1, good job. If you didn't get 1, hopefully this makes it a little clearer how you're supposed to get that. If you're ever having a question where I'm getting these numbers from, because I know it's kind of hard for me since I'm teaching to a bunch of blank screens to like slow down my pace or speed up my pace. So if you have any feedback if you'd want me to repeat something or explain something more clear, make sure you're letting me know in the chat or unmuting yourself. All right, so we're gonna check ourselves by plotting our points. So -4, -3, so -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, -3, 1, 2, 3. So here's point 2. So this point right here is plotted. And then we're gonna go ahead and do -2. So -2, 1, 2, down 1. So that's gonna be right here. So I'm gonna go ahead. That was kind of sloppy. Let's see. I tried to make it as straight as possible. So for this one, I'm already in good shape because it is a positive slope. It's trending upwards from left to right, so we're good. That checks out. If I want to look at my my rise over run, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. So our rise over 1 is 1, which is good. So that's gonna check out. So rise over run is 1 divided by 1, which is just 1. So that checks out. So that's just another way you can check your work, guys. I'm just trying to emphasize that. That's another way that you can check. We did talk about equation solving last week and a little bit at the beginning of today. So y equals mx plus b. So remember, this is called slope intercept form. So I would, if you don't have that written down, you should definitely have that written down. The m, I would definitely make sure you have it labeled. That m is going to be the slope, and then the b is going to be the y-intercept. So where that line intersects the y-axis. So the y-axis in this case is going to be right here. So in this case, it's pretty clear where that line intersects. It intersects at +1 on the y-axis. if you guys can see that. So we could actually write an equation for this since we know our slope. We could just take this formula so we can translate it to our line that we have here. So y equals m, which is our slope, which is 1, x plus b. So what is our y-intercept? It intersects at positive 1. So plus 1. All right. So that's how we do that. Now, something I want to kind of explain, you're not always going to because I drew that free-handed. So that mathematically, that isn't totally accurate because I kind of free-handed it, and yes, it looks right. Yes, it checks out with our slope and everything. But we're going to be this week, we're going to talk about a way that we can translate this y equals mx plus b formula to work for us every single time. So like here, I guessed that it was positive 1 because it looks like it's positive 1. But let's say we have a line. I'll go ahead and just cancel out everything. Let's say I have a line that is like this. Well, I don't know exactly where that intersects b. Okay, so I could make a guess, but I wouldn't know for sure. So we can use what we know about finding slope, what we know about our points to figure this information out. So we're going to kind of begin talking about this today. So slope equations from points. How do we do that? So go ahead and get these 2 points written down on your paper or in your notebook. So we've got 0, -4, and -5, -3. So we know how to solve for slope in this case, or we know how to get our slope. So we have y2 minus y1 divided by, oops, not y, divided by x2 minus x1. So that's going to give us our slope, or our m. So go ahead and figure out the slope, and then we're going to kind of work backwards to figure out what our slope-intercept formula would be for this line. And we're going to talk about this a lot this week, so we're probably only going to have time for this example, but we're going to pick up where we left off tomorrow. So go ahead and try and figure out the slope for this one. I'll give you guys a few minutes, and then we'll discuss it. All right, so go ahead and start writing and typing in your slopes that you guys found. And again, guys, it's okay if you're wrong or right. I just want to get participation from you. Like I said, it's difficult for me because I'm teaching to a bunch of black screens. So this participation is important. So I see -1/5 or 0.2. I see -1. All right, so I tried to color coordinate a little bit differently. So our y2 is going to be -4. minus our y1, which is going to be -3. So minus -3 divided by x2, which is 0, minus x1, which is -5. All right. Well, remember, subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding. That's my really ugly addition sign. So -4 plus 3 gives us -1. And then 0 minus a -5 is 0 plus 5. So go ahead and 0 plus 5 gives us +5. So those of you who got -1/5, good job. We can simplify that though, if, like I saw some of you do. If you take -1 and divide it by 5, you're going to get -0.2. So good. So our slope is -1/5, or simplified, it's -0.2. So -2/10. All right. So now, how do we write an equation from this? So we want to figure out how we can write an equation accurately. So here's what we're going to do. Remember our slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. I'm going to clear some of this out, and I don't want to confuse anybody. So our slope was -0.2. We all figured that out. So y-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Well, I can go ahead and plug whatever I got for m into this formula where m is, okay? So I can take y equals -0.2x plus b. Now, there's 3 unknowns. If you guys were, I know some of you guys are new to my class, relatively new, so you weren't here for our algebra unit. So we're going to take this slowly because it can be kind of confusing, especially since a lot of you missed my algebra unit. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pick a point. So one of the points that passes through, I'm just going to pick this first one. This is important, guys. So x and y. I'm going to plug in x values and y values where my x and my y are. So if that's not making sense, that's okay. So I'm going to take -4 because that's my y value. So I'm going to take -4 equals, I'm going to bring down -0.2, and then I'm plugging in 0 for x. So -0.2 times 0 plus b. All right. So all I'm doing, and we're going to practice this a ton. So if this is going over your head right now, that's okay.
That's why I got it wrong, because I thought it was, I put, instead of a 1, I put a, and instead of a 0, I put a 1. I don't know why I seen a 1 there.
Gotcha. That's okay. Acknowledging your mistakes is good.
That's why I got it wrong.
Okay. All right. So for this one, left side, I can't do anything. So I'm going to bring down my -4. On the right side, we're taking -0.2 times 0. So we're just multiplying -0.2 times 0, which anything times 0 is just 0. So that combined is just 0 plus b, because we're just bringing down that b. So now I've got -4 equals 0 plus b. Well, this 0 doesn't really exist anymore because it's just 0, so I don't really have to do anything with it. So I'm just going to cancel that out. So b, sorry, I just canceled that out. B equals -4. So with this information, I found what our y-intercept is. I can go ahead and rewrite our equation. So y equals -0.2x minus 4. So b is -4. And I know it seems like I'm kind of rushing. It's because I want to show you guys one more thing before we leave today. So that's how that's kind of what we're gonna work on this week. So that's kind of like a review of what we did last week, plus what we're gonna do this week. So for you guys this week, you have 3 assignments. They're all gonna be due on Sunday, so you can do them whenever you are available, but they're due on Sunday night. The first activity is going to be slope from graphs drag and drop activity. This is just, and I can open it up and show you guys. It should create a copy for each of you. So all you have to do is, you've got slopes in the middle. You're just gonna go ahead and drag whatever graph matches what slope. So you're gonna look at the slopes, and you can put it in present mode if you want it to be a little bit bigger, but you're gonna go ahead and match each slope with each graph. So that's one thing that is an assignment. That should be hopefully an easy 10 points. More slope practice. This is gonna be just for completion credit, but for this one, I want you guys, this is for practice. So this is just, what is the slope of the line? What is the slope of the line? And I know they're kind of loading. So just a bunch of practice for you guys, so you can kind of self-reflect on what you need help with, so you can bring it into class and kind of be like, oh, I noticed on more slope practice, I kind of needed help on this. And then quiz 5, more slope. I would wait until Thursday. Like I said, I suggest with most of our quizzes to wait until the end of the week to take them, just so you get as much practice as possible. So with that being said, are there any questions for me about anything today, anything this week?
No. What? Quiet. Oh, yeah. Is there any, like, what's the due date on these on the papers? Be quiet. Like, what's the due date? Like, do they got a due date?
So the due dates for all of the online assignments are going to be on Sunday. So that's going to be the 15th. So you guys have about six days to complete them.
Okay.
All right. If there's no other questions, you guys are free to go. I will see you all tomorrow, okay?
All right. Bye.
Bye, guys. Have a good day.
You too.